to be here, and for the opportunity to be here, I'd like to thank Theresa May for resigning just a couple of weeks ago and giving us a bit of a longer holiday in Parliament. So thank you very much for that introduction, and I really am pleased to be here at the Expo. It's a fantastic event, and one that sadly I've missed before because of parliamentary commitments. And every time I talk to one of Hull's business owners, whether that's today or on the many community visits that I've had around the past 2 years, I'm reminded of the central place that businesses, and I have to say, not just because I've been sat next to Ian, but the Hull and Humber Chamber of Commerce play in making our community the great place that it is. And I'm sure you'll all agree that Hull is a great city, proud of our people, of our history and of our traditions. But I'm sure you'll also all agree with me when I say that there are things about Hull that could be even better. The Chamber has given me the title, Labour and Business, a new approach. But it is these questions: how do we make Hull even better? What is our vision for a future Hull? That has been my preoccupation as I have prepared for this speech. Any new approach must begin with that question, and as I talk to you about each of Labour's policies towards business today, I'll attempt to answer why each is a vital piece of the puzzle to pull together our vision for a future Hull, a brighter, greener and more prosperous place to live. So I want to start by talking about the environment. The environment is the bedrock of our economy, our security and our well-being. Building a sustainable economy requires nothing short of societal transformation. And in my view, the government's policies haven't addressed the growing threat of climate change and the pressing issue of the UK's energy security in the future. The fact is that any government which pursues policies at odds with the development of the renewable energy industry in this way that the government has, by removing, for example, the climate change levy exemptions for renewables, scrapping feed-in tariffs for new small-scale renewable generation, and cancelling the zero-carbon homes policy, is clearly not looking to the future. The taxing through business rates, always a controversial issue, of the benefits of capital investment in renewables that enhances the productivity and profitability of a business seem positively bizarre. And I was very pleased to hear attendees of Humber Business Week talking about the need for carbon neutral policies here and how carbon capture can actually drive local economic development. There is no way around the fact that investment in renewables such as hydropower, tide, wave, ocean, geothermal, wind, solar and ambient heat energy to support the creation of thriving renewables industries with good long-term jobs across the UK is crucial if our economy is to grow in an environmentally sustainable fashion. And there is also our question of maintaining our place in the league of countries who put the environment first. And I don't think this will cost jobs. I think this will actually create jobs. Government has the ability to provide the climate for the expansions of the renewables industry. For example, there are 1,200 tax reliefs available that cover everything from pension contribution relief to entrepreneurs relief that amount to the best part of around 400 billion. So instead of asking ourselves, is there room for tax relief on renewables in a crowded tax relief market, the more appropriate question is, can we afford not to provide tax relief as part of a renewable energy policy? We need to recognise the threat that climate change poses is not just to this generation, but to generations to come. And this is why Labour convinced Parliament to listen to the thousands of school children that mobilised across the country and here in Hull to declare a climate change emergency. And on a personal level, I was particularly pleased that some of those climate change activists were former pupils of mine. So I blame the teachers for that. So in short, we are committed to prioritising renewables and ensuring that by 2030, 60% of the UK's energy comes from zero carbon or renewable sources. Local and regional businesses have a significant role to play in the development and production of renewables and the economic benefits that the recalibration of local industry into those new technologies will bring. This is such an opportunity and a future for us here in Hull. And Labour will support businesses that want to take part in the development of this sector. We're committed to ensuring that by 2030, 3% of GDP will be committed to research and development with significant investment in renewables. And I'm going to be holding a big conversation on climate change in September, and I very much welcome the input of business into that event. And as someone who's grown up in this area, I know how the River Hull has shaped industry. Our local economy has always been shaped by water, and I recognise the huge role that Hull has here as part of the Humber Energy Estuary. We have long been a centre for energy production, for storage and handling. The Humber, as you know, is already home to 2 of the UK's 6 main oil refineries, and it's estimated that our ports import 1/3 of the nation's coal, 1/5 of its national gas, and we produce almost 1/5 of electricity. And to misquote the President Donald Trump, we're big, massive, huge, nobody bigger than us. We are, and we don't shout about it enough. So one thing we'll take from the President's visit to the United Kingdom is maybe we need to brag a bit more about what goes on here in Hull. Because Hull is now leading the way when it comes to renewable energy. We're utilising opportunities created by the wind industry, taking shape of our coast, where 6 wind farms are already operating, another under construction, 3 more planned. This green energy revolution is bringing about jobs, skills and investment, with Ørsted investing £6 billion by the end of the year. And Siemens and the Associated British Ports have also invested hundreds of millions of pounds jointly. But the energy sector still remains a relatively small employer in Hull, only accounts for 5.1% of jobs and employing just 17,000 people across the region. The potential for further investment, which would make Hull one of the central energy hubs, is just not being met. Annual clean energy investment is at its lowest point since 2008. An analysis of the government's planned infrastructure investments, the infrastructure pipeline, showed that there is a 95% decline in planned investment in renewables from 2017 to 2020. So it's little wonder that the Environmental Audit Committee has investigated the government's policy towards renewables and heard expert evidence citing the decline in investment in renewable energy is directly linked to the removal of subsidies and privatisation of the Green Investment Bank. A Labour government would utilise the creation of a national investment bank alongside a series of regional banks to ensure that renewable energy projects and companies investing in renewables are able to access stable finance. This must also be in the context of the wider issue of an economy that is regionally imbalanced, to the extent that we have 6 of the poorest regions here in Western Europe. So over a period of 10 years, we would use our £250 billion National Investment Bank with levered-in private sector capital that will guarantee investment in zero carbon or renewable energy projects to make our economy more environmentally sustainable and meet the challenge posed by climate change. And on the housing side, the number of new affordable homes for social rent has fallen. We are now building over 30,000 fewer socially rented homes than in 2010. And at this pace, it will take 170 years to house the families currently on councils' waiting lists. The next Labour government will build 1 million low-cost homes, the majority for social rent. This target over a 10-year period also includes an additional commitment to scale up and sustain 250,000 homes a year by the end of Parliament, 100,000 of which will be genuinely affordable homes to rent and buy. And Labour recognises to meet the scale of the current housing crisis, we need to look at all sectors, including councils, housing associations, community-led organisations and private house buildings to do so much more. Similarly, a Labour government would end the building of the new, sorry to say, rabbit hutch properties that are growing apace. For example, former retail units that are being converted into occupational flats. We will consider mandatory minimum space standards for family homes and look at making lifetime homes condition a criteria for public funding. The pursuit of meeting affordable house building targets does not have to come at the expense of quality, and many councils and housing associations are already leading the way in building low carbon homes and adopting passive house approach, which makes homes so well insulated, almost no heat escapes. And there's an excellent example, as Councillor Lynn Petrini was talking to me about the homes on Plain Street and the homes on Walker Street here in Hull. And I'd really like this area to adopt and promote the use of modular homes as a serious option that should be considered. And I've regularly expressed support for this, but currently there are only around 15,000 modular homes built every year in this country. And you compare that to Sweden, where 8 out of 10 detached homes in Sweden are built using modern methods. And a study by the University of California, Berkeley found that at least 30% of new build multi-residence buildings in the country use a significant degree of prefabrication. Given that we have an ageing workforce, we are significantly dependent on EU migrants whose future post-Brexit is uncertain. The need for radical rethink is even more necessary. Modular homes can take as little as a month to build, given the advances in technology, and quality is not compromised. This expansion must be linked to the whole question around skills and agenda and the role of regional government in that process. Modern modular homes are as far away from the old prefab post-war homes as you can get. The checkered history of the latter should not blind us to the potential of the future of modular homes building. It must play a part. And in areas like Hull, we already have the skills from our established caravan industry. This is a real opportunity for Hull to embrace this growing industry and offer secure, high-quality jobs to people in the region. And we know that as well that small businesses are the backbone of the economy, making 99.3% of all private sector businesses in the UK. These businesses sustain communities in areas like Hull because they hire local people, they buy from local suppliers, and they pay their fair share of taxes back into public services. And I was very interested on Monday morning to hear about the local company BioD and Emily Gallagher talking about how this local Hull company is looking to become eventually carbon neutral. And this is why Labour government must do more to support small and medium-sized sector. I'm going to squeeze on a bit because I can tell quite a lot of you are now thinking, I'll have another cup of tea. So I'll move on then. And just want to talk briefly about, there is a huge skills gap in this country. On Monday they were talking in the presentation about the lack of development in skills, the lack of investment in skills that has been going on for way too long over governments of both colours. And we need to do more to invest in that and to change that. So Labour's plans for the National Education Service is one that I think is crucially needed in areas like Hull. Because it's not just the National Education Service, but it's also the Lifelong Learning Commission, which the Labour Party have already started to put research into, which answers the question about how can we ensure that our local businesses are future-proof, that we have the people we need to continue to grow, by looking at that question of reskilling and the challenges faced and opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. So, I will move on. So we know that alongside our strong policy proposals, we need a plan for how we'll deliver them. For too many years, Westminster and Whitehall have been far too detached from regions such as ours, and more of the same from Westminster simply will not muster. In this regard, a substantive dialogue with the region is needed to find out what they need from government, not government telling us what we need here in Hull. And for obvious reasons, we can't wait for devolution to sort itself out, or we could be waiting for years. So we need to already work with existing partners across the country to deliver on our transformative agenda. We are absolutely committed to supporting the great work that Humber LEP has been doing to support a skilled and productive workforce, develop the local infrastructure that our area needs, and support businesses to thrive. And I'd like to take this moment to pay tribute and thanks to Lord Haskins for his work as chair of the Humber LEP. I hope that we can all work together to continue to build a strong economy that is successful, sustainable, environmental, and focused on local needs. By working together, we can create high-quality, secure jobs and ensure that we benefit from the growing renewables and modular home market. We're not asking for handouts here in Hull. We just need an equal platform that can only be obtained with the regional infrastructure and regional investment banks that a Labour government will bring. I look forward to continuing to work with local businesses to deliver our vision for Hull, a brighter, greener, more prosperous place to live. Thank you.